What's up, everybody? I'm Kelly Johnson, the host of the Daily Grind podcast, the official podcast of the Kelly Johnson Foundation. The goal of our foundation is to make a difference and share and support future leaders. Tune in today's episode and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all the content and events. Links are in the description. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We're in episode 10 of season 7, the very best one yet. I'll keep the introduction short because we have a special guest on today's podcast. I'd like to introduce you, Molly Brubaker. Molly's the founder, owner, and lead instructor of Baby Booty, a community for parents to work out, socialize, and find support. With 2 locations in Portland, Maine, and Dedham, Massachusetts, Baby Booty was created as a way to prepare for the physical demands of parenthood. So welcome to the show, Molly.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're excited to have you on the show, Molly. Our listeners are beyond excited to learn more about your story, what you do. So yeah, I'm going to hand the mic off to you. If you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your daily grind.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Molly Brubaker. I live in Portland, Maine. I'm originally from Newton, Massachusetts, founder of Baby Booty, single mom of 2 young kids who are 2 years old and 4 years old. They keep me busy. I'm very tired most of the time. Daily grind. I mean, so much caffeine, like it's crazy. I'm nonstop. My personality is nonstop. I'm an Aries. So if anyone's into astrology, it's like, don't stop moving until you crash. But that works with my lifestyle, driving all around and teaching classes and training instructors and doing the day-to-day of the business while also being a mom. So it's a grind for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we can tell you say true daily grinder on today's show here. Like I said, excited to learn more about your story, share your wealth of knowledge with our audience here tuning in today's episode. So yes, I'd say let's start with the origin story of Baby Booty here. Can you share us like the info behind the company and the vision as well?
Yeah, so I became a mom in 2021, and I had never been in that moment of new motherhood before, so I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I wasn't sure what to do with my newborn baby, so I was just thinking about things I used to love before having kids, and one of those was definitely fitness and sports. So I was just bringing her to the Pilates studio where I worked out. And she would just sit next to me in her carrier on the ground sleeping. And then over time, she obviously got bigger. She wouldn't stay still. So then I asked the owner of this studio if I could just strap her to my body and create a class where you just worked out and your baby was there, but they weren't the focus. I think that's really the big differentiator with Baby Booty is I've always wanted it to feel like a class you did before having kids. So super energetic, fun music, clean, upscale studios. The kids are there, but they're not the focus. The focus is on you, the parent, prioritizing yourself, and taking that time to really care for your mental health and your physical health, whether you're pregnant or postpartum.
Yeah, and then with Baby Booty, Molly, like what's the specific mission or goals do you aim to achieve with the company, like for your consumers, the parents, but then also at the end of the day too?
I mean, I would say that as a new parent, it's super easy to neglect your own well-being because obviously you are trying to keep a little baby alive. And especially as a first-time new parent, you're just like exhausted and your mind is spinning. So the thought of even taking a shower, right, is like crazy. So I guess we just are working to change that mindset to make parents' health in that time frame of your new parent journey also a priority, because you can't be the best parent if you're overtired, if you're depressed, if you don't feel comfortable in your own body, if you don't have time away from that grind of being a brand new mom.
Yeah, really well said, Molly. Being able to prioritize our health, but then at the end of the day, be able to provide the love, support, and care we need for our children out there, and in general, just to be the best that we can in our own respective daily grinds.
Yeah.
Can you talk us a little bit more about like when daily grinders, come to one or two of your locations, what they should expect, or what really makes it a unique experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted our studios to feel super welcoming, and a place where you can come and kind of feel a sense of purpose. I know as a first time parent, sometimes you feel like you're going on walks, pushing your baby in a stroller, and you're like, where am I going? Like, what is the point of this? I'm not talking to anyone. I'm probably wearing sweatpants and I just feel like a ball of mush and I have no purpose. And maybe you used to be a career person, a career woman, and now you've put that on pause and you have no sense of what what your life is anymore. So my goal is that you can come to Baby Booty. We have classes 7 days a week in both studios. You can have that sense of purpose. You can book out, your classes and create a schedule for yourself. And it's a win-win because you come in the door, you feel supported, you feel the sense of purpose. You get to meet other parents. So you get that immediate community. And every class is half of a workout and half social circle. So it's really about connecting and sharing the challenges that you're facing day to day as a new parent and being vulnerable and making friends ultimately. And it's a win-win because your little one makes friends too, and they're watching older kids. So it has developmental benefits for them. So it really can't go wrong. So I think that's definitely what makes us unique.
Oh, yeah, really well said, Molly. Just again, helping new parents, current parents with those challenges of, loneliness, emotional ups and downs, their well-being, their tired, exhaustion. List can go on. It's great that Baby Boo can be that place for them to go and have, in addition to having a great time, but great sweat. Again, benefits. We probably talk for days on the benefits of
Yeah.
being a regular attendee. But talking on the flip side of the challenges, as a business owner, entrepreneur, what challenges did you face establishing and growing Baby Booty, and how have you been able to overcome them?
I would say just trust your own instinct and your own gut. There's a lot of outside noise, whether you're looking at your competition or social media, and stay focused. And I think, I've fallen victim to being like, oh, like we should try that. Oh, we should try that. But you cannot please everyone. And I think that's definitely a challenge. You get feedback and you're like, oh, like we could try this and that. But then ultimately you have to come back to what's your, what's your goal? What's your focus? I would say, of course, like taking risks is a big challenge because you have to tell yourself it's okay to take those risks. So for me, like opening a second studio, a lot of people told me not to. They were like, you're 6 months postpartum with your second baby. Why are you doing this? And I just had this like instinct in me, gut feeling like I just really want to do this. And it was really, really hard. It's still really hard to have two, especially not living right near the one in Massachusetts. But I kind of have that mentality of like jump and the net will appear. Like if you trust yourself enough and trust your gut, like you will figure it out. But with that also, taking a risk, I would say when you've built something, you're working nonstop, and it's just always a hustle. So if you're going to start a business, just know you're not going to be able to shut it off. You're always thinking about it. It is like a third baby for me for sure. But you oftentimes get stretched too thin, offering too much of yourself to your business or your staff or your community. So figuring out how you can hold boundaries in that way and also not feel like you're getting taken advantage of, because that never feels great. So yeah, there's so many challenges. I mean, I was listing out like if somebody's starting a business, like just remember you're going to need to think about things that aren't as glamorous, like loans, taxes, hiring, training staff, your team culture, contracts, payroll, your building leases, your insurance, your software, marketing, sales, partnerships, client relationships. Like I could keep going on and on. All the things that people don't see behind the scenes, that are gonna keep you doing the paperwork. And so I think that's a big reminder too, that just because you love doing something, when you make it into a business, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to keep continuing to do that, because there's all this other stuff that are challenges.
Yeah, really well said, Molly. And thanks for shedding light in the area. And also, as an entrepreneur, behind the scenes, so key for our listeners to in today's show, whether they have an idea or a passion project they're looking to go full time with, or taking that leap of faith, trusting themselves, or those risks. But at the end of the day, too, it's just a matter of continue to carry forward, persevere, and overcome those challenges while building the business. I forgot to ask in the intro, Molly, baby booty, like what's the story or the inspo behind the name and the branding?
I guess it just was kind of like a spur of the like, I asked, my friend who owned that other studio, hey, could I just start a class? And I just literally was the first thing that came out of my mouth. We could just call it like baby booty or something, like work your booty. And great. Yeah, let's just run with that. And then I Googled to see if like anyone had that name. There was like one person who makes like little baby booties, like the shoes. And I was like, oh, that's fine. We're not trying to make little shoes. So another like, piece of advice is if you have a name for something, you want it. So I filed right away for the trademarks to register the name and the logos. And it took over a year to get the trademarks. So definitely recommend doing that. I created an LLC right away. I come from a family of lawyers. So they were like, you got to get the foundation done and then that will set you up. So yeah, we do have a cute little baby bee logo. And yeah, the name has worked. The name has worked for us. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. If it aligns with the brand, the message, the story, vision, goals overall. Speaking of, baby booty brand and whatnot, you have built quite the community as well. So what is the community like within baby booty, and what role does like community play in the overall vision?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that I'm constantly like we're working on in terms of creating a community within each studio and then creating like this overarching kind of culture of who the brand is. The studio in Portland, Maine has been open like 2.5 years. So it's a bit longer. And then prior to that, I was teaching classes at this other studio for about a year and a half. So the community here is a bit bigger. It's cool now because we have a lot of moms who are coming back after their first baby. So they're having second pregnancy and they joined us with their first baby. So they're kind of continuing on in the life cycle. So the community here is really cool. I think we have a lot of members who see each other all the time, multiple times a week. We do a lot of activities outside of the studio. So we do like playground meetups. We do like tons of like nights out, like mom's night out. We do like pop-up events. We're doing like a swimming event where we have half workout, half swim at a local pool. We're doing a burlesque workshop coming up. So we have lots of local partners that we work with to do stuff just outside of just the workouts. And then of course, the social aspect of each class in itself, it's already built in. So that's really cool. We're trying to connect people if you can find somebody who lives near you or, follow people on social media. So just trying to foster like connections. So we're always trying to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great, Molly. Having that social component, but again, going back to the health, wellness, and overall being able to be the best we can in our daily grind. I think that's great that you offer like a well-rounded experience in addition to the workouts. So super kudos to you and your team. Speaking of like your members or parents that attend Baby Booty, can you share like a success story that highlights the impact of a workout? Or I mean, we could probably talk for days because you probably had quite the community of positive engagement. But anything that you'd like to share on today's show?
Yeah, sure. I have like two that kind of come to mind. One was a mom that I met when my daughter was like only 6 months old and her daughter was 3 months old. I had just started Baby Booty and she was like a total mess. And I could really relate to her. And like, we joke now, I'm like, I can relate to your crazy. So I said, hey, come to check out this class that I created. And she just like kept coming, every week, multiple times a week. And then we were walking in the woods one time with our babies, and she said, hey, you know what? I really think I'd love to teach these classes. It has meant so much to me. So she was actually the first instructor that I hired in Maine. Shout out to Alexa. And so she started teaching our classes, and she, like, her postpartum journey really, really changed. She went from having postpartum depression and like having a really, really hard time in the beginning to being a leader in our community and being vulnerable and being open. And people really connect with her because she was just so willing to share her story, and she's hilarious. So her classes, people come because she's just so funny and so warm and welcoming. So she really sticks in my mind. I do wonder, like, if she and I hadn't met, like, what her journey might have looked like, because I did see such a positive impact for her, not only physically recovering from giving birth, but emotionally. She made so many friends, and she was able to kind of dig herself out of kind of this dark place. And then, mentally as well, working through kind of all aspects of how difficult the postpartum period is. Another mom who comes to mind, she started coming with her first baby, and now she's pregnant with her second baby. And she has said numerous times, this pregnancy is already so much easier because I'm working out and moving my body. Like, she comes like 3 times a week at least. And then the other thing to point out about her is she has said she doesn't have a support system, like family nearby, but she's made so many connections at Baby Booty that she now feels comfortable. She uses one of our instructors as a babysitter, and she feels a lot more connected. So that's really powerful for me to hear, that we can help provide that kind of support, with her going into a second pregnancy, and just how much better her body feels. Like, it's just so cool to hear.
Yeah, these are great, Molly. Again, we're all about celebrating the wins and hearing about the success that we had at Baby Booty and much, much more. That's great. I love the energy and like love the welcoming environment and the connectivity overall. You being single mom of 2, so you have kids yourself. What's the hardest thing would you say about motherhood?
The hardest thing. That's like, I don't know. I would say, like, when it comes to like Baby Booty, I would say for the moms, like, I know one of the hardest things is telling yourself it's okay to also prioritize yourself. That's really, really, really hard to do. You feel guilt. Definitely, I would say, like, mom guilt is for sure a thing. I would say for me, making mistakes and then trying like really, really hard not to beat myself up about it. As an example, like, this one, people would be like probably shocked, but when I had my second baby, I think I was like maybe 7 weeks postpartum or something, and I left him in the car. He fell asleep, and I forgot he was there, and I ran into a coffee shop to get a coffee. Literally 4 minutes later, and don't worry, it was like winter, so he wasn't overheating, but I had that moment of like, holy shit, I have a second child, and he is in the car right now. And I, dropped everything, sprinted out there, and I literally have never felt so horrible and so guilty. And I share that story. Like, nobody thinks that could happen to them. But when you're overtired and you are just in this total fog, plus when you have a second kid, it's just like there's so many moving pieces. So I've made mistakes. I will happily talk about them and share them, because that's what we're all about, is that, like, this stuff happens. You can't beat yourself up about it. You have to just grow. We're all human. So making mistakes, definitely one of the hardest things about being a mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well said. Being able to give yourself grace, but then also understanding, like, all of us out here have our individual daily grinds. I'll admit myself, I'm not perfect either, but we continue to power on, continue to achieve or look forward to our goals out there in the world. Speaking about, like, just again, that mental health aspect, like, how do you take care of mental health before, during, or after pregnancy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, when you're a first time parent, you're so focused on like getting your nursery set up right? And like your baby shower. You don't think about what kind of support you're going to need because you just don't know what's going to happen. So if you can listen to advice from other moms who have experienced it, whether that means you like get a doula to come into like your birth while you're giving birth to advocate for you, or you have a postpartum doula, or you have lactation consultants, pelvic floor PT. There's just so many things you don't know that you need. Obviously therapy is a big one. We're big supporters of that. There's lots of like perinatal specific therapists. I think that's important. Talking to your partner, if you have one, about what you might go through and what they might go through once the baby comes, because even the non-birthing parent can get postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, which a lot of people don't think is a thing, but it definitely exists. And then as the birthing parent, you know, depression, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, like there's so many things you just don't know. When my daughter was born, I had intrusive thoughts and I didn't know what that was. I had never heard of it. And I did tell a therapist about it, and they're like, oh, that's so normal. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think, you know, our health system in this country is super flawed in terms of support. You have like one postpartum checkup at 8 weeks, and they do a checklist to see if you're depressed. If you're depressed, they might say, hey, go see a therapist, but it's not necessarily like the hand holding you need when you're a brand new parent. And so my advice would be to get that stuff lined up beforehand, even if you don't think you need it. If you've never had therapy before and you say, I'll be fine, like maybe it's worth just knowing that there are therapists out there that can help you navigate some of the stuff that you may not be prepared for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well said. Seeking the support that we need to ensure, again, we are healthy, happy, and continue to power through here. Speaking of baby booty, Molly, we talked like present day, future outlook ahead. Like, what's the future? Like expansion, franchising. You have 2 locations. You're going at a pretty fast pace here from a growth perspective.
Yeah, I've been told that. It doesn't feel that way. So, but yeah, I do hope to franchise it. That is kind of, I've played around with different ideas, but I think ultimately franchising would be a really cool opportunity for another parent who wants to create something in the community for themselves and for others. I personally think that there's nothing quite like us out there on the market, like boutique fitness for parents. There's a lot of like mommy and me type workouts. A lot of those are like outside stroller workouts. Obviously, I live in New England, so we can't work out in the snowstorms. But I think having like a physical studio space that's dedicated for the community has been something that I've really felt strongly about, rather than renting other people's spaces, because we just have the ability to have this like our own space and have our own events and workshops. So that's definitely something that is different about us. So yeah, if anyone's interested in learning more about franchising, I've started exploring it. So you can feel free to reach out to me.
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll have to stay tuned. Might have to get you back on the show or something, latest and greatest with Baby Booty. Speaking of Baby Booty, again, talking to your community as well, like how do you gather feedback from parents or caregivers, and like what roles does that play in like improving your services or even having that future outlook too?
Gathering feedback. I mean, I know, like for me as the owner, I try to know everybody's name. That's like a big one. Here in the Portland studio, I do know every single client. I may not know your husband's name or your dog's name, but I know your name, I know your baby's name. And that's like hundreds of people, but I am very good at names. So I really try to get to know everybody. At our Massachusetts studio, we have a manager there. She tries to do the same. I try to learn too, like, who's this? Like, what's going on? And then we do, tons on social media, really like promoting our own members if they hit milestones, constantly looking for feedback. I was just texting with a client right before we started, saying like, hey, how was that class? What did you think of it? So it's always like kind of a two-way conversation. I'm always open to constructive feedback to learn from it. But, like I said in the beginning, like you can't please everybody. So I have definitely learned, like, as much as I love our classes in this business, like I know it's not for every single parent, right? It's not going to be exactly what they're looking for. So all I can do is put forward what I think has worked for me and what I'm seeing is working for hundreds of our parents who are coming. And we're definitely trying to improve all the time, so we're constantly changing class times, bringing in new class styles, hiring new instructors. So it's ongoing, and that's definitely something I didn't really realize in the beginning, of like how fast it moves in terms of like having to be agile with like making changes. So be ready to move quickly in terms of listening to feedback and changing what you need to.
Yeah, talking about being able to evolve to the ever-changing market, it goes for multiple, it goes across industries as well as daily grinders, being able to understand where we are in our audience, but then provide that best product or service at the end of the day. Speaking of like on the business side, you gave us a ton of gems throughout this interview, Molly. Any other additional advice for entrepreneurs out there or aspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their own business?
I saw this quote the other day that was like, you've never been in this exact moment before, so how can you expect yourself to know exactly what to do? And that like resonated with me, because you have to be constantly like learning and teaching yourself. And as an entrepreneur, it can definitely feel like lonely, and in the sense of like you have a team and you have clients and they're looking to you to tell them what to do, and you're steering the ship. So whether you're seeking out like mentors and advisors, and asking questions, asking for help, and figuring out how you can like delegate certain things that you're not able to do. I mean, I still try to do a lot of it myself, because I don't have a huge team, but I think just asking for help is definitely important, and reminding yourself, I have never been in this exact moment and it feels hard, but I can figure it out. So trust yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great, Molly. Yeah, being able to trust ourselves, but then also being able to build those relationships, ask questions, and get the support that we need in order to grow, and then continue to power through, keeping up the grind. Lastly, Molly, like, what do you want the impacts legacy of Baby Booty to be?
I would say I really would love the impact to be changing the experience for new parents and what it looks like for them, like knowing that we exist, and we're there as like a net to support them and provide them with resources, and that pregnancy through postpartum, like you don't have to go through it alone. We have a lot of parents who find us once their kids are like a year and a half or 2 years old, and they say, I wish I had found you sooner. I was really lonely 6 weeks postpartum. I didn't know any other parents. I was alone in my house staring at my newborn. So I'd love for us to be kind of like a household name, like, oh, you're pregnant, go start going to Baby Booty. They're going to set you up for a smooth transition into new parenthood, which is like the craziest time of your life.
Yeah, right for the craziness. No, but all in all, that's great. Leaving a legacy and leaving a mark and inspiring and making impact on a lot great parents out there. But yeah, in closing, Molly, we talked about your schedule. You have quite the grind going on, leading the charge at Baby Booty. What's on your daily grind later this year? Like what's on the radar later in 2025?
I don't know. I don't really I don't know. I am just trying to steer the ship in an upward direction, keep the business growing, keep learning. We're still totally in that grind of being a new business, kind of like barely breaking even each month. Like, not gonna lie, like it's hard to pay the bills. So I'm just trying to like constantly make adjustments, make changes. Like we switched this past summer, we switched to a new software system. So that was like a big change, and trying to fully learn that and utilize that. I don't have anything on the radar for like big changes right now, which is a good thing. And that's totally unlike me. Normally I'm like quick to change. So I think this is a good spot right now. Growing these 2 locations, making sure they're both successful, and really proving the concept. That's really my goal. Is I just want other people to see this and be like, okay, I get it, right? Like, I see what you're doing. And then after that, we could have the possibility of expanding, 3rd location, etc., with the goal of franchising in the future.
Yeah, that's great. We wish you all the best and continued success with Baby Booty, to you and your team.
Thank you.
As for Molly on the podcast, keep up the grind. Again, we're speaking our tagline here. We didn't tell her to say this, folks, but yeah, Molly, a story very inspiring on today's show. Do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there, or even a quote, saying, mantra?
I'll give you 2. How about that? So I have the word moxy tattooed on my arm. Not because I live in Maine. If anyone's a Mainer, they know moxy soda. It's not for the soda, but to have moxy. I've always it's kind of like believing in yourself, to have like that vigor and like the trust in yourself, trust your gut. Chutzpah, that like Yiddish word, to have that. So if you can find some kind of moxie within yourself, if you're starting a business. And then this is just a quote that I like. There's not a difficult thing unless you decide it's a difficult thing. Otherwise, it's just the next thing you're figuring out. So there have been like moments in building this business where I've been like, this is going to break me. Like, this is the hardest thing. But once you get through it, you're like, oh, okay, I did that. And then of course, another challenging thing comes. So that's just like parenting, right? You're like, potty training seems like the hardest thing ever. And then you do it and you're like, oh, I got this. Or beginning to breastfeed, or all those things. It's like just those little mountains. But when you're up close to them, they seem like, Mount Everest. And then you climb it and you're like, all right, let's go, ready for the next one.
Oh, this is great, Molly. Words of wisdom here. I think quote, Moxie, I think it fits perfectly with your story, what encompasses what you're doing here at the Royal, inspiring us on today's show, but really motivating us to achieve much, much more. Last but not least, Molly, if our listeners have questions, comments, want to get in touch with you, want to learn more about Baby Booty, come in person, how can they do so?
Yeah, for sure. Follow us on Instagram. We have 2 accounts. So at Baby Booty Workout. If you're in Massachusetts, you can follow at Baby Booty Workout Dedham. Our website, babybootyworkout.com. You can find us there. Yeah, we'd love to have you. If you're in Maine, come to our Portland studio, or in Mass, Dedham studio. It's literally 1 block from the Boston City line. Free parking at both locations. So, no reason to not come. Bring your baby. It's super easy. Classes 7 days a week.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, we'll put where to find Baby Booty, where to find Molly, and today's show notes as always. Thanks again for tuning today's episode. A big thank you to Molly for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly. Yeah, everybody, nice to meet you. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks again for tuning to today's episode. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Daily Grind Pod, and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all of our content and events. Links are in the description. Also, check out our new YouTube channel for exclusive content, including video interviews and highlights from our nonprofit events. Search for Daily Grind Podcast, or just follow the link in the description. Lastly, head over to our website, www.kjfwi.org, to shop our merch. Thanks for supporting the grind, and we'll catch you next time. As always, keep grinding.